Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's March 27th, 2022, and I got some questions on heating and cooling systems of our house. And Adrian is making some designs undergoing the process of designing her place. And she reached out to me. I asked a couple of questions back to her. She sent me a response again, and I thought I'd share with you my thoughts. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a professional builder. As you can see, the buildings around here I've been building, and we built this house back in 1984, and there is a full video on that. There's also all the other videos that yesterday I posted a video. I considered it a preamble on the elements of good design, good designers, characteristics of good designers, and our thermal mass, and walks through the house and all. And I thought I'd read through the questions, and then what I do is show some pictures of some of the process of building the house. Then I'm going to go through with a small GoPro camera that doesn't have a gimbal, so it is going to be a little bit shaky. We'll walk through the house and we'll take a look at it from outside, and then we'll look at another type of solar thermal heaters as well. So I'll get started here. So thanks for getting back to me so quickly. So maybe I'm looking for information about both, because I asked her about, are they looking for a counter-current heat exchanger or basically like a heat extractor, that sort of thing. I'm referencing the video where you show your chimneys and the rock under your home. We plan on doing the same thing. We will be adding rock under our earth floors and building a chimney connected to a pellet wood stove with an indoor chimney next to it. So it sounds like there's two chimneys, with one that's up against the wall and one that's next to it. The chimney will be on the south wall of the house. I'm thinking it'll act as a solar chimney as well. Then we plan on having cooling tubes running under a berm on the north side and entering into each room. So those are geothermal cooling ducts that can just work by simple convection currents, and that is a good idea. This is what I have so far. Wintertime, the heat will rise and collect at the top of the indoor chimney. We will have basement space underneath the home, just like yours, that will have a fan blowing into our rock. And that's what I've shown in other videos. We have chimneys, and I'll be showing that in a couple of moments. This is where I have questions. Excuse me. Is the fan just blowing into the rock face, or are there tubes running under the house? There are no tubes. There's a plenum, metal plenums that I welded together out of steel, angle iron, and tubular steel and sheet metal, and I faced it with stainless steel mesh fabric. All of this is well perforated, so as the air gets forced into the large plenum, the air infiltrates and passively goes in between each one of the rocks, gradually heating them and going to the other plenum on the other side of the house, which is the east side of the house, where there are vent ducts that come up into the den area and two additional ducts that come up into the corners that go upstairs in the house. It's essential that this is an open envelope house, and I'll try to point that out when we show the video. Then the vents you have in your home blowing out that warm air, how do you have those set up under the house? So it's just the plenum, and I welded vent receptacles on the top of the plenum so that the pipes attach to the corners and they go to the second floor, and just floor vents go right into those, just basically attach into receptacles that I welded into a plenum at the east end of the house. Do you worry about humidity getting blown into the rock and causing things to grow down there? Yes. So having adequate perimeter drainage, and having the windows properly installed, having proper vapor barriers and air barriers, and having proper airflow management and humidity control in the house is essential. So all of that is so important to make sure you're not getting excess humidity down there and creating problems. The other thing that I would say is when you have rock down there, you need to know what your radon level is as well. So, that's a form of radiation that could pose a potential health risk besides airborne disease processes as a result of mold growing down there as well. So those are things that really have to be taken into account. It needs to be sealed from the floor, from the walls. It needs to be insulated. But when I say sealed, I mean vapor, water, air, and moisture. All of those things need to be covered. And I did videos showing those techniques when I was doing some of the workshop renovations. I think it was 2019 that I did those, and I went over each layer and the materials I was using for construction. During the summertime, the pellet stove will of course be off, and I'm thinking of having a vent close to the floor on that main chimney that can open, creating a solar chimney. As the sun warms the chimney, the heat pulls out the air from the floor of the house, I believe, and pulling it out. From the way that I'm interpreting this, I don't think it's the best thing. You always want to extract the heat from the highest point in the house, because heat is naturally going to rise and get to the ceiling. And you'll notice that although our home is a salt box conformation, meaning that the south face is a 45-degree angle and the north face is a lesser degree slope. And the 45-degree angle was made for in case we ever wanted to put solar panels on it. But with having shade trees there, it helps to keep our home cool, and that would interfere with solar gain. So I elected not to go with solar panels on the roof of the house and create a comfort zone outside of the house. And we'll go over the overhangs as well. But you always want to have a way for the heat to rise and to deal with that heat. Either bring that heat back down into the thermal mass, charging the thermal mass, and releasing cooler air, which is more comfortable. So it's a circulation going through the house. Ventilation, circulation is absolutely essential when you're designing an airtight house. You want to be able to have fresh air come in, and I'll talk about heat exchangers in the video as well. And the concept of a countercurrent heat exchanger, I've got some pictures of physiology looking at animals and how we look at it. Like we can look at birds, we can look at fish, we can look at marine mammals, we can look at dogs and why their feet, they can run around out in the snow, and we can pull sleds up in Alaska, those sorts of things, without them freezing to death. Do you think, all right, my questions are, do you think this will work? I think, based on the general concepts that you've talked about, I think it has a good chance of being a functioning unit. I'm always looking at optimizing everything. So certainly decreasing thermal barriers, increasing the all four barriers: moisture, thermal, water, and air. We want to prevent those things from moving back and forth. We want to control all moisture, all airflow, all heat, and all in our homes. And so that's how I design at this point in time. Then we want to manage the circulation inside of our home. And so there are a couple of things I'll point out when we go through the video today about that. How do you cool your home using the chimneys? Well, during the summertime, when it's real hot outside. We have an overhang, and it's a 2-foot overhang on the south side of the house, and we have shade trees on the south side of the house. So we're not getting as much solar gain coming into the windows, and we have blinds as well. So we can decrease solar radiation coming into the house during the summertime. That's very, very important. So we're stopping what we have to deal with inside of the house. The next thing is the heat rises in the house. We can always open up skylights. The other thing is before it gets to that high a temperature, we can take the heat that goes all the way up to about 24 feet high, 23, 24 feet high inside of the house. We take that warm air using the fan system, bring it down into the thermal mass, and that thermal mass is only maybe in the 70s, and so that brings 70-degree temperature into the living spaces as well. When the thermal mass gets to a maximal temperature, let's say it gets up to 78 degrees, 79 degrees, then the skylights need to be opened. And certainly you can use cool duct systems as well, as we have 2 4-inch ducts that come in, and those ducts pass through the whole plenum area, and we'll talk about countercurrent heat flow with that, but that brings fresh air into the house and allowing the stale air to exit through the cat doors and other ways as well. Does the indoor chimney have any purpose of cooling? I'm a little lost on this part. My thought is what you do is that the hot air rises, it gets pulled down under the house by the fans, and the rock cools that air and comes out the same vents as the cool air. That's exactly right. Is it that simple? Yes. Do I even need added cooling tubes for the house? I'm someone who, and you live in North Carolina, I would look at all the historical data and look at what the trends are and try to forecast, if this is your forever home, are you going to live in this home into the point where you pass away? That's the way I designed this house. Now, I would do some things differently now, considering I never thought I'd live this long when I built the house. Yes, I would do some things differently. I think having cool air being brought into the house is absolutely essential, and you can always make a refrigeration system. I didn't show it in this place. Like the excess heat, like on the 3rd floor of the house, I have 2 70-gallon galvanized water containment systems. So as the groundwater comes in from the house, some of the water is diverted upstairs to the 3rd floor, where it's always the warmest in the house, and it goes through the first 70-gallon tank and then goes into another 70-gallon tank, and that preheats that water up to about 75, 78 degrees temperature, and that is what I use for feeding the hot water heater. So I only have to raise the temperature of the hot water heater that much. You can use a cool air ducting system to help to create a root cellar inside of your home if you have a appropriately insulated area as well. You can actually make an extension on the north side of your house, which is like a freezer out there, where the ducting system comes in, and you can circulate it through that system, and maybe have a cool bot which could turn it on at different times to keep it chilled down, just like market gardeners keep their vegetables cool, but using the earth as the first phase and the cooling bot as the second phase only, decreasing energy consumption. And I see I'm really taking a while here with this video, so let's get it started. So here's some of the thermal mass, the stone, the wash stone. You can see some of the plenums. These are the receptacles for the floor vents. This is the tubes that go up to the 2nd floor. Here's where the chimneys are. This is the clean out area here. The other 2 go up alongside. This is all eastern hemlock that was locally sourced right around us. You can see some of the pictures here. This is post and beam. Thea and I went to a place where we saw eastern hemlock post and beam homes. Before we built this, we fell in love with the look of it and the feel of it and the nature, using nature's materials. I decided to use bolt to hook everything together so I could get lots of compression on it to decrease the give and take as things go on. So everything's bolted together here. Again, my brother Dave is the engineer. He's the one that designed the house. This is the base where the wood stove hooks up to into the living room. You'll see that in a couple of moments. These are the floor joists for the third floor, and these are the three chimneys, the center chimney being the one that goes to the outside of the house. This is the south side of the house, and now that's the interior of the house that you're looking at, because on the outside of that goes sheetrock, vapor barriers, polyisocyanurate, another layer of wood. This is the south side and the east side of the house. This is the north side, only one window where the kitchen is on the north side of the house, and you could see skylights up there as well. So, and this is the northwest side. Now we're in the video in the living room that I shot with the GoPro camera today. So we've got more stone. We have tile floors, lots of concrete. Everything's insulated on the outside of these things. You see the ceiling there is a cathedral ceiling where the air can flow all the way through the house. Even the bathrooms have airflow, the ducts coming up in from the plenum into the bathrooms, and so it exhausts underneath the doors of the bathrooms as well. And you can see I put a stone face, several inches of stone on the outside of those chimneys, just more thermal mass as well. Again, now you're going to see, and that I-beam there is for me to get equipment up, since we have a spiral staircase, and you can see lots of our and we have a backup little propane heater there that we can use. And you can see today it's snowing outside. We're in Oswego, New York, so we get lots of cloud cover, lots of snow, and pretty cold days. The last couple of years haven't been too bad. This is our spiral staircase. We knew we wouldn't be able to get big objects up and down the stairs with a spiral staircase. That's why I put a gate over to the side. You'll see in a minute. There's a wood stove down there. Here's one side of one of the chimneys as it goes up, and you can see it ends. And then you might be able to see the actual the exhaust chimney that goes to the outside of the house. Chimneys on the interior of the house are much more efficient. They're better at heating the house. This is the back side of the chimneys. You could actually put plumbing up against that. You could put copper tubing up against that outside as a preheater for radiant heat in other places. Now we're going into the master bedroom here. Our master bedroom's a little bit different than most, and yes, this is sort of a control center here with computers and all. But again, the open ceiling, cathedral ceiling, and now I'm gonna climb up here to the third floor, and I probably should have put an elevator here. As I think about it now, as I get older and more decrepit. And there's storage area up here. This is a reverse osmosis tank. There's a skylight up there. Reverse osmosis, so we have plenty of drinking water right here. This is one of the openings of the chimneys on the side of the central chimney. So this is taking the heat. Ignore all the cobwebs. You can see the I-beam there that allows us to bring up the materials and furniture up into the second floor there, and it's got a trolley on that I-beam. And there's another chimney on the other side as well. I have a backup hot water heater there when something happens with the one. I'm always have a backup, and have a backup to your backup. And of course we have sprinkler systems in the house, and you can see the size of the beams. You can see one of the sprinkler heads there. They're all over in here. Now I'm headed back downstairs at this point, or down the ladder, I should say. And I forgot what I looked at right here. A little office desk where Thea and I are working now. Our master bathroom. There's a small room to the side there. This is the gate where we bring the big furniture up. The I-beam is above it. Chimney to the right there. And the south is to our left. And again, the chimney system, as you can see it here. Cathedral ceiling, really important. I had initially thought about putting solar panels on the south side of this house, but I decided to put a larger overhang, a 2-foot overhang, which you'll see in a couple of minutes. There's a little Yodel wood stove. We hadn't had that started in probably a week, But Thea said, let's get the stove started today. So I started that up. But all the additional thermal mass, all that wood holds heat. I opened the door here to the utility room, and that's where the fan is located, and chimney clean out is down there as well, and the filter system is. Now we're going through to the other side of the house, the den area. There's the doggy door below the door. The cats and dog are in and out all day long, going out into the Harbor Freight. There is a floor vent right underneath that piece of furniture and one under this piece of furniture. I'll pull the chair out so you can see this one. Over in the corner, you may be able to see as a glimpse, there is a pipe going up in the corner. Microgreen, aquarium, downstairs bathroom, and the kitchen area here. And we'll be modifying things, making our kitchen larger. There's Thea. Hello, Thea. Yep. She's wondering what the heck I'm up to now. So now I think we walk outside, and we're going to see the, what are we going to see out here? There's the north side of the house. This is a mudroom, and it is muddy almost all the time. Now we're going out into the garage, freezers throughout the whole garage, one refrigerator freezer here. And food pantries all out in this area. Now we're going to take a look outside. And one of the things I decided to do was have the shade trees here in the south side of the house, have that 2-foot overhang, that because the sun is so low in the sky during the wintertime, we get full solar gain through the second story and first story windows. During the summertime, the sun is so high in the sky, that 2-foot overhang, no sun hits those windows on the second floor at all. So the design, picturing the solar angles and your overhangs, these things are all really important in the whole design process. What else here? Everything's a mess. We have lots of remodeling to do, but a lot of that's getting held off because of what's going on in world events and commodity prices, lumber prices, labor prices, and all right now. I'm holding off temporarily. That's our mudroom shoes right there. And again, a quick look in here in the living room. And again, the cathedral ceiling. And everything's insulated on the outside of everything that you're seeing here. So all of this is thermal mass. It holds heat from the floors to the rock bed below to all the stone above. And during these cloudy, snowy days here in Oswego, we can just use that tiny yodel stove to heat things up and extract heat through a countercurrent heat exchange system. Now, I'll stop here first. Well, I'll look at these here. So these are other solar panels that I have, and these are not photovoltaic ones. So these are several inches thick. Here, I think these are 8 inches thick. They're insulated on all sides. There's an input and an output on the top of this unit, and it could be laid in different positions. But as the sun heats, goes through the glass on the face, and it heats the black or dark brown colored surface on the other side. And you can, if you see here, you see a little bit of grading there. That whole system heats that up, and that will force the air to flow through the system, and you can have solar thermal air or solar thermal fluid. And fluid, you can use like an antifreeze solution. So there's solar thermal heaters. Those are the ones that were on the White House during the Carter administration. And this is a solar heater one here. We can put solar heaters on the exterior of the house and pump heat in. Some people will take old soda cans or beer cans, paint them flat back black, put them in a box that's insulated on the outside, double paint on the face of it, so that when the sun hits it, it hits those black cans, and that forces the hot air to accumulate inside of there and can force it through vents inside of the house. And I've been over that in videos a few years ago, some of those systems. So I want to show you the importance of so the way that heat is transferred is either through radiation, conduction, or convection. That's how heat is transferred or absorbed and all. So when we're talking about countercurrent heat exchange systems, if the two sources are flowing in two directions, like in this paw here, you could see that the arterial circuit is coming down to the paw and all, but what ends up happening is this circuit here actually gets cooled because of this cool air, this cool blood coming back through the venous system. They just aren't showing it very well in this diagram, but the dog's paw, this whole fluid down here towards the paw is quite cool, because all of this here is turning purplish way up in here, and this is all reddish purple here, and it gets more of its normal intense color. So heat is going into here because it's in close contact, and as a result of the heat going from this side here, from the arterial circuit into the venous circuit, it's turning more purple and getting blue by the time it's out here. This is just a poor picture, but it was the best picture that I could see. I think I have another picture here as well. So this shows you a countercurrent heat exchange system here. So cool, fresh air is coming from our ducts outside of the house and going through 4-inch tubes, but this is a plenum here, and it just shows it at points here. So this is where the heat from the chimneys coming down from the peak of the roof goes into the plenum, and this is where it goes into the thermal mass, the stone bed under our house. But the cool air as it comes in here gradually gets warmed up as it comes in, and then the exhaust goes out through the doggy door and other places in the house. This is cross-current exchange systems and all. It isn't, there's inefficiencies with system like this, but there's also I call it serpentine, which I would use on the back face when we walked up into the hallway behind the chimney. You could use a serpentine system. That's basically a series of pipes with gentle slopes. You never want to use 90-degree angles. You always want to use less than 90 degrees because there's flow restriction. So we can use, just like people would use radiant floor heating, you notice that their loops in their floor are gradual. So you can extract more heat by direct contact. So that's conduction going into a water system and preheating your water for whatever purposes you have in your house as well. So there are many ways we can do this. Let's see, I think I have a couple more images here. Oh, I don't have any more. I'll just show you this. So the chimney on the inside of the house is the safest chimney you can have. The further away from the walls, I believe, is better, unless the wall is absolutely super insulated. And the reason that I say that is if you live in a cold environment and you're using a wood-fired or pellet-fired stove and you're exhausting that heat up the chimney, if it's on the outside of the house, the cool air and wind through the convection currents are going to cool the mass, the thermal mass, whether it's stone or whatever it is. It's going to cool the pipe down, and therefore we don't get as efficient of combustion, because the combustion doesn't just happen down there. There's more burning of those PM2s, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, those things that we breathe into the air. So if you look at the top of my chimney, when I'm burning stuff, except for when I first start the fire, all you can see is vapors. You don't see any smoke whatsoever. You can only see a distortion. And that's because we have really efficient burning. And if you're cooling the chimney, you are inefficiently burning it. And that's how carbon and creosote get built up on the inside of there, and that leaves you more open to chimney fires. So less maintenance, less wear and tear, more energy efficient by having the thermal mass, having the chimney on the inside of the house. Being close to the central part of the house is probably the best. But you can use other extracting systems like we use, the two countercurrent, those chimneys drawing, use in direct contact with the central chimney, that's the exhaust chimney, is allowing conduction. Then we use ventilation convection currents to draw that heat down and charge the stone in the floor and charge the concrete above the stone in the floor as well. I hope this helps to make things clearer. Certainly bringing cool air in from the north side of the house if you're in the northern hemisphere, and the south, and you have south, your solar gain is on the south, so bringing in cooler air. Yeah, you can use a whole variety of techniques and all, and there's no absolute answer for that will cover everyone. I hope that I'm not overstating my abilities or that my way is the best way. I'm just sharing what I've learned over the years. I'm not an expert in this area. These are the things that I think about. But I'd encourage everybody to entertain some of these thoughts. And it sounds like Hank's excited here, so I got to run and see what's going on. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Give us a thumbs up if you found this video of value, and take care, folks. Stay safe. Bye-bye now.